It was a typical Saturday afternoon at the National Stadium, and the crowd was vibrating to the pulsing rhythm of the soccer match. As the stands reverberated with chants and applause, Emily, with her notepad in hand, watched every move on the field attentively. As a journalism student and avid sports fan, she used each game not only for leisure but also as an opportunity to learn and practice her reporting skills. Suddenly, her attention was diverted from the game to a commotion in the stands. A group of aggressive fans, clearly fueled by alcohol and the adrenaline of the moment, surrounded a family composed of a couple and a young boy. Insults flew, heavy and venomous. Mark, a robust man with gentle features, tried to protect his son Tyler, who shrank against his mother, Sarah. Sarah, with tears welling in her eyes, held her son close, trying to cover his ears from the shouting and profanity. Without hesitation, Emily stood up. She walked decisively to the site of the confrontation, her stance firm and her gaze filled with determination. "Hey!" Emily shouted, her voice cutting through the air thick with hostility. The aggressors turned, surprised by the interruption. "Is this really necessary? We're all here to enjoy the game, not to spread hate." One of the fans, a man with a torn shirt and a defiant look, stepped forward, glaring at Emily. "And who are you?" "Defender of the weak," he sneered, drawing laughter from his friends. "I am someone who believes in respect and decency, things you clearly don't know about," Emily retorted, staring at him with an intensity that made the man hesitate. "You should be ashamed. There's a child here." The silence that followed was palpable. The tension in the stands was like a rope about to snap. But then, something remarkable happened. Some people around began to support Emily, their voices rising in a chorus of disapproval against the aggressors. "Yeah, leave the family alone," shouted a woman from the other side of the stands. Equipped with cell phones, several spectators began filming the interaction. The hostile group, now aware of the unwanted attention, muttered some bitter words before dispersing, leaving behind a trail of embarrassment and restrained anger. Mark and Sarah quickly thanked Emily, their words stumbling over tears and gratitude. "You didn't have to do that, but we're so grateful," Mark said, gripping Emily's hand tightly. "I just did what I thought was right," Emily replied, offering a reassuring smile. "I hope this doesn't ruin the rest of the game for you." They nodded, a bit more relieved, and Emily returned to her seat, thinking it would just be another story to tell in her classes. She had no idea that footage of that scene would soon spread across social media, catapulting her into a completely new and unexpected reality. In the days following the game, as Emily prepared for her university classes, she noticed a significant increase in her social media notifications. The video of her intervention at the stadium, where she defended Mark, Sarah, and little Tyler, had gone viral. Shares, supportive comments, and praises flooded her profile, turning her, almost overnight, into a local hero. However, the sudden fame brought unexpected challenges. During a journalism class, Rick, a classmate who had always competed with Emily for opportunities and academic recognition, threw the first punch. "So, Emily, how does it feel to become famous for defending people in exchange for likes?" he said in a tone mixing sarcasm and disdain, loud enough for the entire class to hear. Emily, caught off guard, hesitated for a moment before responding. "Rick, I just did what any decent person would do. It wasn't about being famous." Sure. But we all know how the media works, right? Who wouldn't want to be the hero of the moment?" Rick continued, casting a meaningful look at the other students, many of whom exchanged uneasy glances. As the days went by, Rick's criticisms became more frequent and incisive. He began posting in online forums and social media groups, questioning Emily's true intentions. "Don't be fooled by the heroic facade," he wrote in a particularly venomous post. "It's all about image projection and nothing more." These comments created an atmosphere of doubt and suspicion around Emily, who found herself increasingly isolated in a university environment. Some classmates began to question whether her action at the stadium had been genuine or just a calculated bid for attention. Frustrated and distressed by the growing hostility, Emily sought advice from one of her professors, Mr. Henderson, who had always encouraged her in her studies. In his office, surrounded by piles of books and newspapers, she confided, "I don't know what to do, Mr. Henderson. I just wanted to help, and now this has turned against me." Mr. Henderson, a middle-aged man with wire-rimmed glasses and an almost unshakable calm, offered her a reassuring smile. "Emily, the truth has a way of asserting itself, sooner or later. You did what you thought was right, and that's what really matters. These criticisms may be tough now, but they too shall pass." Inspired by his words, Emily decided not to let Rick's actions define her narrative. She began using her social media platform to share more about her motivations and experiences, hoping to dispel the doubts cast over her. As she worked to regain her reputation, an unexpected event promised to change the course of her story. A black limousine abruptly parked in front of the cafe where she was sitting, writing a blog post. The driver got out and walked toward her with an envelope in his hand, bringing with it a new wave of surprises awaiting Emily. As Emily typed the last line of her blog post, the tranquil atmosphere of the local cafe was her favorite refuge, a place where she could lose herself amidst the aromas of fresh coffee and the soft murmur of conversations around her. She pondered how to respond to the recent challenges and doubts cast against her, trying to shape a narrative that reflected her truth. Suddenly, the cafe door swung open, causing a cold draft that made some newspaper pages fly. Emily looked up, curious about the interruption. A tall man dressed in an elegant chauffeur's uniform entered. His gaze scanned the room until his eyes fixed on her. With firm steps and a serious expression, he approached. "Miss Emily?" he asked, in a clear and respectful voice. "Yes, that's me," Emily replied, somewhat surprised. "Can I help you?" "My name is Jameson. I am Mark Sullivan's personal driver. He sent me to deliver this to you." Jameson extended an elegant envelope sealed with golden wax bearing the Sullivan family crest. Emily, still somewhat taken aback by the formality of the moment, accepted the envelope. "Thank you, Jameson. But may I ask what this is?" "It's an invitation. Mississippi Mr. Sullivan would like to thank you personally for your courage and decisive action at the stadium. He hopes you can visit his residence for a dinner in your honor." Curious and a bit cautious, Emily turned the envelope over in her hands. "That's very kind of him. But why me? It was just a gesture." Mr. Sullivan believes that acts of courage, especially those in defense of others, deserve recognition. He would be very honored by your presence. Emily pondered for a moment, considering the unusual situation and the possible implications of accepting such a formal and personal invitation. "I accept. It would be a pleasure to meet Mr. Sullivan and thank him for this gesture." Jameson nodded, a slight smile touching his lips. "Excellent, Miss Emily. Mr. Sullivan will be delighted. I will be at your disposal to pick you up at a day and time convenient for you." "Let's schedule it for this Friday evening then," Emily replied, deciding to dive into the experience, regardless of where it might lead her. "Perfect. I will pick you up at 7 o'clock. If you need anything until then, please don't hesitate to contact me," Jameson said, handing her a card with his contact information. As Jameson left, Emily felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. She knew this dinner might be just a formality, or it could open doors she had never imagined. With the invitation in hand, she finished her drink, her thoughts already focused on the meeting that could very well change the course of her life. As she prepared to leave the cafe, a shadowy figure watched from afar, marking the beginning of new challenges that Emily would still have to face. On Friday night, exactly at 7 o'clock, Mark Sullivan's elegant black car pulled up in front of Emily's modest apartment. Jameson stepped out with the same respectful and courteous demeanor, opening the car door for her. Emily, dressed with understated elegance, felt butterflies in her stomach as she stepped into the car. The city streets flashed by the window as they drove to Mark's imposing residence. Upon arrival, Mark's mansion was even more impressive up close. Bathed in soft lights, The facade exuded a sense of grandeur and history. Jameson led Emily to the main entrance, where she was greeted by a butler who guided her into the reception hall. Mark Sullivan awaited her, with a demeanor that blended authority and kindness. Beside him stood Sarah and little Tyler, now visibly happier and more secure in the family setting. Mark stepped forward with a warm smile, extending his hand. "Emily, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person. Your courage at the stadium was remarkable. We are deeply grateful." "Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I'm glad to see Tyler is doing well," Emily replied, shaking his hand. "Please, call me Mark. Let's have dinner. I hope you like seafood," he said, guiding her into a sumptuously decorated dining room. The table was set with understated elegance, and each place had a name card for the guests. The dinner began with a light appetizer followed by delicately prepared dishes. Throughout the meal, conversation flowed naturally. Mark and Sarah shared a bit about their lives, and Emily talked about her studies and her passion for journalism. "Emily, I want you to know that if you need anything, my family and I are here for you," Mark said, his tone sincere and firm. "What you did for us wasn't a small feat, it's a testament to your character, and we want to support you in your endeavors, whether in your education or your future career." Emily felt deeply touched by the genuineness of the offer. "This means a lot to me, Mark. I'm truly grateful for your generosity." "It's the least we can do," Sarah replied, holding Emily's hand. "You showed great courage, something Tyler will never forget. You are a role model for him, and for us too." As dessert was served, an atmosphere of friendship and mutual respect had formed between them. Emily felt not only grateful but empowered by the support network that was extending before her. At the end of the dinner, Mark walked Emily to the door. "I hope we can see each other again, not just in formal circumstances. You are always welcome here." "Thank you, Mark. Tonight was wonderful. I appreciate all of this more than I can express." With a final wave, Emily got into the car, heading back home under the starlight. As the car pulled away, she reflected on the possibilities that this new connection could bring. However, what she didn't know was that Rick was intensifying his efforts to discredit her, spreading rumors and doubts that would soon demand her attention and resilience. As Emily retreated to the warm thoughts and promises of support from the previous night, a very different plot was unfolding in the university corridors. Rick, driven by a mix of envy and spite, was determined to discredit Emily at all costs. His resentment had significantly worsened since the stadium incident and the subsequent Thanksgiving dinner Emily received from the influential Sullivan family. That morning, under the gray autumn sky, Rick met with two of his closest friends in the campus cafe, both equally cynical. With a conspiratorial look, he slid his tablet in front of them, showing a series of posts and comments he had prepared to disseminate online. "Look at this," Rick said, an astute gleam in his eyes. "Everyone's buying into this hero story, but I know there's more. Emily isn't who she seems to be." His friends, spurred on by Rick's insinuating tone, leaned in to view the posts. One of them, featuring a photo of Emily and her boyfriend, John, had a particularly venomous caption: "Is our dear hero really in love, or is it just another play for more attention?" "That's low, even for you, Rick," one of the friends commented, though with a smile that denoted more admiration than reproach. "Sometimes, you need to play dirty to reveal the truth," Rick replied, satisfied with the impact of his words. "And there's more. I'm starting to question how someone as ordinary as Emily ended up at a dinner with Mark Sullivan. Something doesn't add up." With this narrative in mind, Rick spent the day spreading his venomous rumors. Between classes, he whispered to classmates about Emily's supposed true intentions, insinuating that she was using her sudden fame for personal gain, including her relationship with John. In the afternoon, during a group discussion in the library, Rick took his insinuations to a new level. When the topic of ethics in journalism came up, he didn't miss the chance to drop a hint. "It's interesting how some people can manipulate the media to create a favorable public image. Ethics seem flexible when fame is at stake," he said, casting a significant glance in Emily's direction, who, by coincidence, was sitting a few tables away. Emily, who had until then kept her focus on her studies, felt a pang of discomfort. She looked up, meeting Rick's gaze. For a moment, their eyes locked, and she realized the malice behind his facade of the ideal student. Aware of the growing wave of rumors, Emily knew she needed to act. Rick's words were like thorns threatening her integrity and the peace she had begun to build. At that moment, determined not to let the shadows of doubt eclipse her truth, Emily decided it was time to confront Rick and clear her name, preparing for the confrontation that would inevitably come. In the days that followed, the university campus became a silent battleground of rumors and suspicion. Emily, however, was not willing to let Rick's lies define her narrative. With firm determination, she began gathering evidence and seeking support to expose the false accusations against her. One of her closest friends, Lucas, an information technology student, offered his help. "Emily, I can try to recover the messages and posts Rick deleted. If he's spreading rumors online, there must be a digital trail," Lucas explained while setting up specialized software on his laptop. "That would be amazing, Lucas. I really need to prove that everything he's saying is false," Emily responded, feeling a glimmer of hope. For several nights, Lucas worked diligently, scouring servers and caches. Finally, his skills paid off. He managed to recover several messages and emails Rick had sent, in which he clearly incited other students to turn against Emily. Moreover, he found audio recordings of Rick talking with his peers about how he planned to ruin Emily to put himself at the top of the journalism class. With the evidence in hand, Emily arranged a meeting with the university's disciplinary board. In the room, with walls adorned with diplomas and awards, the air was thick with tension. Emily, accompanied by Lucas and another friend, presented the recordings and emails, detailing each incident of defamation and its consequences on her academic and personal life. Rick, summoned to the same meeting, initially tried to deny the accusations. However, confronted with undeniable evidence, his face paled and his facade of confidence crumbled. "This is all a misunderstanding," he stammered, looking at the board members, who watched him with expressions of disapproval and disappointment. "A misunderstanding? Rick, you deliberately tried to sabotage my reputation." "This isn't a misunderstanding, it's pure malice," Emily retorted, her firm and clear voice reverberating in the room. After a tense deliberation, the board decided that Rick would be suspended for a semester and required to attend an ethics and integrity program. Grateful, Emily felt a weight lifted from her shoulders. She had defended her integrity and demonstrated the truth about her character. As she left the boardroom, a smile of relief crossed her face. The shadows of the lies had been dispelled, but the victory was bittersweet. She knew that the fight against prejudice and injustice was far from over. That night, reflecting on recent events, Emily realized that her journey was just beginning. The experiences had strengthened her resolve, and she felt ready to face new challenges, knowing that the battle for justice and equality would require not only courage but also an indomitable will to fight for what is right. As the seasons changed, so did Emily's life continue to evolve. The incident with Rick had become a closed chapter in her life, but the lessons learned reverberated in every decision she made. Now, with John by her side, she faced a world often hostile to the love they shared. John, a talented software engineer and a man of gentle character, had become not only her partner but also her greatest supporter in the ongoing struggles against prejudice. On a Saturday afternoon, as they walked hand in hand through the city park, Emily and John felt the piercing gazes of disapproval. It was a constant reminder that, despite social advances, there were still barriers to be broken. "You feel it, don't you?" John asked, squeezing Emily's hand as a group of passers-by cast sideways glances. "Yes, I feel it," Emily replied, sighing deeply. "But I won't let it affect us, John. We know who we are, and what we feel for each other is all that matters." On another occasion, during dinner at a local restaurant, a couple at the next table murmured nasty comments loud enough to be heard. "It's sad to see how some people can betray their own culture," the woman said, casting a venomous glance toward Emily and John. Emily felt a wave of anger, but before she could respond, John held her hand across the table, offering a calming smile. "Let it go, Emily. Our happiness doesn't depend on their approval." Despite John's support, each incident left a mark, and Emily often found herself reflecting on how she could use her voice and her pen to fight against such injustices. It was then that she decided to start a blog dedicated to discussing issues of prejudice, love, and equality. The blog quickly gained followers, becoming a space for dialogue and mutual support. In one of her most popular posts, Emily wrote, "Love knows no boundaries, sees no colors or creeds. Love is the true resistance against prejudice." The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many sharing their own stories and thanking Emily for her courage. Despite these moments of victory, challenges persisted. One day, as they were preparing to attend a concert, Emily received a series of anonymous messages on her blog, each more threatening than the last. Shocked but undeterred, Emily knew it was a sign that there was still much work to be done. These incidents, though painful, only strengthened Emily's resolve. With John by her side, she became stronger, more determined to defend not just their love but the right of everyone to live free of prejudice and hate. As they faced these adversities, Emily and John's journey was far from over, and new challenges were already on the horizon. Together, they prepared for the future, knowing that no matter what came their way, they would face it all side by side. As the years went by, Emily and John intertwined their lives not just with words of love, but with actions that challenged the adversities that continuously tested their union. The prejudice they faced did not diminish, but the strength of their relationship intensified, turning each obstacle into a stepping stone toward a deeper commitment. One autumn night, under a sparkling canopy of stars, John decided it was time to take a decisive step. They were walking home after a night at the theater, a passion they enthusiastically shared. Emily, wrapped in a scarf to protect herself from the cold breeze, laughed at a joke John had just told. Stopping in front of an ancient oak tree that had witnessed many of the couple's early meetings, John turned to Emily with an intense look. "Emily, remember the first time we passed by here? I was so nervous I tripped over that root there," he said, pointing to the ground with a smile. Emily laughed, recalling the moment. "Yes, I thought you were doing a strange dance to impress me." John smiled, then his gaze became serious. "Emily, since then, every day by your side has been a revelation, about courage, about love, about fighting injustices. You've made me a better person, and I want to continue this journey with you, forever." Kneeling, he pulled a small box from his pocket, opening it to reveal a ring. "Emily, will you marry me?" Tears glistened in Emily's eyes as she nodded vigorously. "Yes, John. Yes, I will." The news of their engagement was met with joy and some reservations from friends and family. Despite this, they planned their wedding with enthusiasm, opting for a simple yet elegant ceremony in the park where they had often met. They wanted the day to reflect their personalities, open, welcoming, and full of hope. The wedding day arrived bathed in soft autumn light. Emily walked down the aisle of fallen leaves, her dress flowing gracefully, her hand firmly on her father's arm. Seeing John waiting for her under the arch of wildflowers, her heart overflowed with love and certainty. The words they exchanged during the ceremony were more than vows. They were promises of mutual support, respect, and courage in the face of adversity. "In joy and sorrow, in sickness and in health, I promise to stand by your side, sharing every dream and every challenge," John declared, looking into Emily's eyes. "I promise to love you, respect our differences, fight against the injustices we face together, and above all, never forget how much better we are together," Emily replied, her voice full of emotion. After the ceremony, as the guests celebrated, the couple shared a moment of tranquility, reflecting on the journey they had traveled together. It was a new beginning, a renewed commitment to face whatever the world had in store for them. But as they celebrated, they did not know that new challenges were already on the way, ready to test the strength of their newly affirmed commitment. Emily and John, now united as husband and wife, would soon discover that the love they shared would be the key to facing the storms ahead. Emily and John's lives were about to gain a new chapter, marked by the arrival of a little one who symbolized the union and love they shared. Emily, now pregnant, radiated a mix of joy and anxiety as the due date approached. John, in turn, devoted himself wholeheartedly to ensuring everything was ready to welcome their first child. On a cold winter morning, the contractions began. Emily, supported by John, who held her hand firmly and lovingly, was rushed to the hospital. The journey there was filled with anticipation and concern as both prepared for the joys and challenges they knew would come. At the hospital, as Emily was settled in, the excitement of the moment was briefly overshadowed by curious glances and whispers among some staff and visitors. Past experiences of prejudice had not been forgotten, and the couple knew their child's arrival might be marked by more than just celebrations. John, always the defender of his family, sensed the tension in the air. "Don't worry about them, Emily," he whispered, kissing her forehead tenderly. "Today is about us, about our family, about our child's arrival." Emily nodded, drawing strength from John's reassuring words. She focused on breathing, concentrating on her child's arrival more than on the shadows of judgment trying to invade that intimate and precious moment. After hours of labor, under the careful guidance and support of the medical team, who were professional and compassionate, Emily and John received a healthy baby boy into their arms. His vigorous cry filled the room, bringing tears of joy to the couple's eyes. "Hello, little one," Emily murmured, her face illuminated by a mixture of tears and smiles as she held her son for the first time. "Welcome to the world, my love." John, looking at his son and then at Emily, felt immense pride. "We did it, darling. He's perfect." As they settled into the maternity room, the couple shared moments of tenderness and happiness, creating a bubble of love around their new family member. However, outside the safety of this bubble, the reality of the challenges they would face as a multicultural family began to loom. Hushed conversations and lingering glances were directed at them as nurses and other parents passed by in the hallway. Emily noticed but chose to focus on the joy of her new role as a mother. In the following days, as they adjusted to the new routine with the baby, the couple found strength in each other and in the certainty that, together, they could face any adversity. But as they prepared to take their son home, they could not foresee the challenges awaiting them outside the sanctuary of the hospital. Parenthood was just beginning, bringing with it a new series of trials that would test their resilience and love. As Emily and John's son, whom they named Michael, approached his 8th birthday, it became clear that he was not growing up in a world that accepted him unconditionally. Despite the love and positive environment his parents strove to provide, Michael began encountering the harsh realities of prejudice that his parents knew all too well. Michael, with his unruly curls and contagious smile, was frequently the subject of curious looks and indiscreet questions about his mixed heritage, especially at school, where differences are observed most acutely by children. On a sunny autumn afternoon, when Emily went to pick him up from school, she noticed that Michael looked particularly downcast. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Emily asked as she held his hand, feeling the hesitation in his small fingers. "Some boys at school said I shouldn't be on the same soccer team as them," Michael murmured, avoiding his mother's gaze. "They said I'm different." Emily felt a pang in her heart, memories of her own struggles surfacing. She crouched down to his eye level, her expression firm but full of love. "Michael, you are perfect just the way you are. People sometimes fear or don't understand what's different, but that doesn't make what they say right." "But it hurts, Mom," Michael confessed, his brown eyes shining with the first tears. "I know, my love, I know it hurts," Emily said, hugging him. "But always remember, you are strong and loved, and we will always be here for you." John, who had joined them, added in a soft voice, "And we will always support you, no matter what. We'll face this together, as a family." Strengthened by his parents' support, Michael wiped away his tears and nodded. The following days were a mix of challenges and small victories. Emily and John held discussions with Michael's teachers, who committed to paying more attention and fostering an inclusive environment. The school initiated awareness programs, inviting experts to speak about diversity and inclusion, which helped create a more welcoming environment for all students. Although Michael still faced moments of isolation, he began to find friends who accepted and valued him for who he was. The determination and love of Emily and John not only helped Michael navigate the challenges of prejudice but also inspired other parents to advocate for their children and strive for a more inclusive community. As time went on and Michael grew, learning to face adversity with his head held high, the family prepared for the future, knowing that new challenges might arise. But they also knew that together, they could overcome any obstacle. As Michael developed in his environment, the next chapter of their lives promised new stories of resilience and love. As Michael grew, the family faced ups and downs, with unexpected challenges testing the strength of their bond. During one of these challenging moments, Michael's health took a worrying turn. One day, while playing in the park, he suffered a severe fall, resulting in an injury that required immediate medical attention. John and Emily, panicked, rushed Michael to the nearest hospital. However, upon arrival, they were confronted with more than just a medical emergency. They also faced the harsh reality of an overburdened healthcare system and the coldness of bureaucracies that lacked empathy for their critical moment. In the hospital waiting room, John tried to calm a visibly distressed Michael, while Emily argued with the staff about treatment options. "Please, he needs care now. We can't wait any longer," Emily pleaded, the urgency clear in her voice. "Ma'am, I understand your concern, but there are other patients before you. We need to follow protocol," the receptionist replied, uninterested. The family's financial situation, already strained, complicated matters further. Emily and John had invested their savings in a struggling business, and the unforeseen medical costs threatened their already fragile financial balance. Returning to her husband and son, Emily felt a mix of frustration and despair. "John, what are we going to do? We can't just sit here and wait," she said, trying to keep her voice steady so as not to scare Michael further. John, holding Michael's hand, responded with forced calm, "We'll find a way, Emily. Maybe we can ask for help. We can call our friends, our family. Someone should be able to help us." But when John and Emily began contacting those close to them, the response was disheartening. Many expressed sympathy, but few were willing or able to offer the concrete help Michael needed. Some even hesitated, uncomfortable with the idea of getting involved in such a complicated situation, their actions or lack thereof revealing a subtle but painful prejudice against the family. However, among the discouraging responses, one call brought unexpected hope. An old family friend who had heard about the situation through social media reached out to Emily. "Emily, I saw your post about Michael. My brother-in-law works at a different hospital, and he says he can help. I'll put him in touch with you right now." Relieved and grateful, Emily and John quickly arranged for Michael to be transferred to the other hospital, where he was promptly treated. The help came at a crucial moment, and the gratitude they felt for this friend and her brother-in-law was immense. With Michael finally receiving the necessary care, Emily and John reflected on the frightening journey of the day. While it was a reminder of the difficulties they faced, it also reinforced the importance of their community and human connections, which were sometimes the only anchor in times of crisis. As Michael recovered, life continued to bring its challenges, but also its lessons of resilience and the constant need to fight against prejudice to ensure a better future for their son. They knew that no matter how difficult the journey was, they were not alone. And this awareness gave them the strength to face the challenges ahead. After Michael's recovery, Emily and John decided to take the little one for a walk in the local park, a place that always brought them peace and good memories. While Michael ran ahead, laughing among the fallen autumn leaves, Emily and John walked a little behind, exchanging relieved smiles after the emotional storm of the past few weeks. As they approached the lake, a place frequently visited by families and couples, Emily spotted a familiar figure in the distance. It was Mark Sullivan, the man whose kindness in the past had been a beacon of hope for them. He was with his wife Sarah and their son Tyler, now a teenager. The reunion was a pleasant surprise, as if fate had chosen that moment to cross their paths once again. "Mark, Sarah," Emily called, waving as they approached. Mark turned at the sound of his name, a broad smile spreading across his face as he recognized Emily and John. "Emily, John, what a wonderful surprise! How are you?" he said, opening his arms to greet them. "We're well now," John replied with a shy smile, as Michael ran to join them, curious about his parents' acquaintances. The conversation flowed naturally, and soon Emily shared the recent challenges they faced with Michael's health. Mark's expression shifted to one of immediate concern. "I'm so sorry to hear that. How is he now?" "Better, thankfully," Emily replied, looking fondly at Michael, who was distracted, throwing stones into the lake with Tyler. "But it was tough, especially with the medical expenses." Without hesitation, Mark assumed a serious tone, a reflection of his ongoing generosity. "Emily, John, please let me help. I would like to take care of Michael's medical expenses." "It's the least I can do," John began to protest. "Mark, that's extremely generous, but we can't accept." Mark gently interrupted. "John, I insist. Not as charity, but as a gesture of friendship. You did so much for me and my family in the past. Allow me to give back in some way." Emily, moved by the unexpected offer and Mark's kindness, felt a mix of gratitude and relief. "Thank you, Mark. Truly, this means so much to us." With the details settled, and Mark's promise to handle the expenses, the park outing transformed from a simple afternoon of leisure into a moment of deep gratitude and renewed friendships. Michael and Tyler, oblivious to the adults' concerns, enjoyed their own adventure around the lake. As the day came to an end, and the afternoon shadows lengthened over the park, Emily and John reflected on the incredible turn of events. Mark's generosity not only alleviated a significant financial burden, but also reinforced their belief in the power of human connections and friendship. As they prepared to head home, with promises to meet again soon, Emily and John knew that despite the challenges, they had valuable allies. And as the sun set, casting a golden glow over the park, they felt ready to face whatever the future might bring. Michael's journey still had many chapters ahead, each promising new stories of resilience and love. After the meeting at the park and Mark's generous offer, Emily felt a deep gratitude that transcended the years since her first act of courage. Emily and John organized a dinner at their home as a way to express their thanks. They wanted Mark and his family to know how much his gesture meant to them. On the night of the dinner, Emily and John's house was filled with laughter and the aroma of home-cooked food. Emily had prepared Mark's favorite dishes, remembering an old conversation about his culinary preferences. When Mark, Sarah, and Tyler arrived, they were greeted with warm hugs. "Mark, I don't even know how to begin to thank you for what you did for our family," Emily began as they sat down at the elegantly set dinner table. "You turned a very stressful situation into a moment of relief and hope for us." Mark, with a humble smile, replied, "Emily, I never forgot the day you stood up for my family. Your courage at that stadium wasn't a small thing. It was an act of genuine kindness that we have always valued. Being able to help now is just my way of saying I'm still grateful." Sarah added, "And we always tell Tyler about you as an example of how one action can make a lasting difference. You inspired him too." Tyler, now a teenager, nodded. "It's true, Emily. My mom and dad always told me about what you did. It made me want to be someone who stands up for what's right too." The dinner continued with an exchange of stories and memories, reinforcing bonds and sharing laughter. Later, John raised a toast to Mark and his family for showing us the true meaning of friendship and support, and to Emily, whose courage continues to inspire all of us. Glasses clinked in a sound of agreement and celebration. The evening was a powerful reminder that even in the most challenging moments, human kindness can flourish and impact lives far beyond that initial moment of action. As the night unfolded, Emily reflected on the support network they had. She knew that challenges might continue, but with friends like Mark and his family and John's unwavering love, they were better equipped to face whatever came. As they said their goodbyes, Mark reiterated his support. "Remember, We're just a call away for anything you need." With hearts full of gratitude, Emily and John waved as Mark's family departed. In the comforting silence of their home, with Michael already asleep, they knew that the lessons of kindness and gratitude taught and learned would be passed on, shaping not only Michael's character but also the community around them. And so, as the night fell, they prepared for the future, knowing that every small act of kindness was a thread that wove the rich tapestry of their lives. The days following the Thanksgiving dinner for Mark were filled with renewed hope and happiness for Emily, John, and little Michael. Michael's recovery after the park incident was swift, largely thanks to the medical support Mark had facilitated, allowing for top-notch treatment and care. On a sunny afternoon, as Michael played in the backyard with the energy only a recovered child possesses, Emily and John watched from the porch, their hearts relieved and full of gratitude. "Look at him, John," Emily said with a smile. "It's like he never went through all that." John, with his arm around Emily, replied, "He's a warrior, just like his mother." He gave her a gentle kiss on the forehead. "And we're so lucky to have friends like Mark." "Yes, true friends reveal themselves in the toughest times," Emily agreed, recalling Mark's generosity and unconditional support. As Michael ran across the lawn, chasing butterflies and laughing, Emily called him inside. "Michael, come here, sweetheart. I have a surprise for you," she announced, holding a small package. Curious, Michael ran over to his parents, his eyes shining with the anticipation of a child who loves surprises. Emily handed him the package, which he opened with nimble fingers. Inside was a new adventure book about courage and friendship, themes that had become significant to him. "Wow! Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad," Michael exclaimed, flipping through the book with enthusiasm. "It's a story about a little hero, much like you," John said, laughing as he saw his son's excitement. "We hope it inspires you as much as you inspire us every day." As the day turned into night, the family gathered in the living room, with Michael reading a few pages of his new book out loud. The story spoke of overcoming challenges and the importance of staying true to one's values, a lesson Michael was learning early in life. This period of recovery and happiness further solidified the family's unity. Emily and John felt more confident and prepared for future challenges, knowing they could count on the support of loyal friends and a community beginning to understand and value diversity and inclusion. Thus, as they prepared for the next phase of life, Emily and John knew that resilience and kindness would continue to be the pillars of their family. Happiness had not only returned to their home but now had deeper roots, strengthened by the trials and triumphs they had shared. And as Michael closed his book with a satisfied smile, Emily and John exchanged a look of understanding, ready to face any new adventure life might bring their way. As the years unfolded, Emily and John witnessed the growth not only of Michael but also of their own understanding and resilience as a family. Every obstacle faced, every moment of prejudice overcome, had reinforced the fabric of values they cultivated at home: mutual respect, courage in the face of adversity, and an unwavering belief in justice. On a Sunday afternoon, as the family gathered in the garden for a picnic, Emily watched John and Michael playing soccer, a scene of pure, carefree joy. Watching them, she reflected on the battles they had fought and won together. John approached, noticing her contemplative expression. "Lost in thought?" he asked, sitting beside her on the blanket spread out on the grass. "I was just thinking about everything we've been through, about how each challenge taught us something valuable," Emily shared, her gaze following Michael as he ran with the family dog. John nodded, taking her hand. "Yes, each difficulty seemed to strengthen our commitment to what we believe in. And looking at Michael, I feel we are passing the right lessons to him." "Exactly. He's growing up in a world that's still not perfect, but we're teaching him not just to face injustice but also to promote change," Emily said, proud. Michael ran over to them, the soccer ball in one hand and the dog trotting beside him. "Mom, Dad, did you see my goal?" he asked with a radiant smile. "We did, champ. You're getting better every day," John replied, ruffling his hair. "You know what? I think these little victories of his and ours are what really matter," Emily reflected aloud. It's about how we handle life daily, and how we teach him to be strong and kind. That's right, John agreed. And speaking of which, I've been thinking, maybe we should do something more with the lessons we've learned. Maybe a workshop or a talk in the community about diversity and inclusion. Emily smiled, inspired by the idea. I'd love that. Let's plan something that can really make a difference. Let's turn our experiences into something positive for others. With this new project in mind, Emily and John felt energized by a new direction in their lives. They would not only navigate their own difficulties but also help others understand and overcome theirs. As the sun set and they packed up the picnic, they felt a renewal of purpose, knowing that every small effort to make the world better counted. The life lessons they had learned over the years prepared them not only to teach Michael how to be a better person, but also to positively influence their community. And as they planned their next steps, they knew that every action, every word, and every teaching strengthened not only themselves but everyone around them. The leaves on the trees began to turn golden and red, signaling the arrival of a fresh and promising autumn. Emily and John, strengthened by the challenges they had overcome and Michael's restored health, felt more hopeful and determined than ever to make a difference in their community. As they planned the workshop on diversity and inclusion, both knew they were paving the way for a future full of possibilities. On a quiet afternoon in their living room, Emily and John spread papers and notes across the coffee table, organizing topics and activities for the workshop. Michael played on the floor beside them, building castles with his blocks. John, what do you think about including a Q&A session? We could share a bit of our journey, answer people's questions, and maybe help clear up some misunderstandings, suggested Emily as she reviewed her notes. I think it's a great idea, Emily. It could make everything more personal and impactful. We can really show how diversity enriches our lives, John agreed, marking the suggestion in their plan. As they discussed, Michael approached, holding one of his blocks. Mom, Dad, can I help with the workshop too? He asked with a curious look. Emily exchanged a smiling glance with John before responding. Of course, sweetheart. You are a very important part of our story. How about helping to show other kids how great it is to have friends of all kinds? She suggested. Michael nodded enthusiastically. I can show my friends at school and how we play together. Perfect, Michael, John said, giving him a high five. You'll be our junior ambassador for inclusion. With plans taking shape, Emily and John felt a renewal of their purpose. They were not only facing their own struggles but were ready to lead by example, offering others the tools to build a more welcoming and fair community. As the workshop date approached, excitement grew at home. Posters were created, invitations sent, and the community began to show interest. Community leaders, teachers, and other families expressed their support and desire to participate. On the day of the event, as they prepared the community hall to welcome participants, Emily looked at John and Michael, who were arranging chairs together. John, we're doing something good here, she said, a mix of pride and hope in her voice. Yes, we are, John replied, pulling her into a hug. And we'll keep doing it, for Michael, for us, and for everyone who needs a little more understanding and acceptance in their lives. With the workshop ready to begin, Emily and John looked to the future, knowing that regardless of the challenges they might still face, they had each other and a community that was learning to embrace diversity. It was a promising future, full of potential for positive and lasting change, guided by education and love. As the afternoon light gave way to dusk, Emily reflected on the transformations not only within her own home but also extending beyond, touching the lives of her extended family. In the months since the Diversity and Inclusion Workshop, Emily had noticed subtle yet significant changes in her relatives' attitudes. There was a growing understanding and a willingness to confront old prejudices that were once unquestioned but were now openly discussed and challenged. At a family gathering, as everyone gathered around a backyard bonfire at Emily's house, the conversation naturally drifted to the themes covered in the workshop. Emily, holding a cup of hot tea, listened as her uncle, who had always been somewhat reluctant to accept her ideas, shared a recent experience. You know, Emily, I've been thinking a lot about what you said that day. About how our words and actions, even if unintentional, can really affect those around us, he began, looking into the softly crackling flames. I've started to notice things at work, comments I used to ignore, and, well, I've decided I don't want to be part of that problem. Emily smiled, her heart warmed by her uncle's words. It means a lot to hear you say that. Change isn't easy, but it's so important. You've opened our eyes, Emily, said her aunt, who was sitting beside her husband. We're really proud of the work you're doing and the example you're setting for Michael. Yes, her father chimed in, who had been one of the most resistant initially. I was wrong in many of my old ways of thinking. Seeing you stand up for what's right, it's made me rethink a lot. As the conversation flowed, Emily realized the impact her actions were having. She and John had started a wave of change that now reverberated through their family connections, fostering an environment where issues of justice and equality were not only accepted but embraced. It was late when the family gathering began to disperse, with warm hugs and promises to continue the conversation. Emily and John helped clean up the backyard, their hearts filled with hope. You see, love, John said as he put away the last chairs, your courage and willingness to speak out are making a difference, not just here but everywhere we touch. I know, Emily replied, her gaze lost in the stars above. And to think it all started with one small action. It really shows the power of living according to our values. With Emily's family embracing a new perspective, the legacy of love and change was being solidly built. The small seeds of understanding and acceptance that Emily had planted were blossoming into a garden of positive change, strengthening all of them to face any future challenges. And as night fell over their home, they knew they were ready to carry this legacy forward, wherever life might take them. As the seasons changed, Emily's influence on her community and family solidified, transforming into a lasting force of inspiration and change. Her actions, starting with the courageous defense of a family at the stadium years ago, now reverberated throughout her network, inspiring a new generation to embrace compassion and justice. On a cool spring afternoon, Emily was invited to speak at a social justice conference, an event that gathered activists, educators, and community leaders from various parts of the country. As she prepared for her speech, she reflected on the journey that had brought her there. Are you ready, Mom? Michael asked, holding her hand firmly as they walked together through the conference center corridors. I think I am, Emily replied, smiling at him. You know, every time I talk about our story, I'm reminded of how every little moment counts. Entering the auditorium, Emily was greeted with warm applause. She walked to the podium, her heart beating with a mix of nervousness and determination. Looking out at the crowd, she began her speech. Good afternoon, everyone, she said, her voice clear and confident, filling the space. Today, I'm here to talk about something we can all understand: courage. Not just the courage to face big challenges, but the courage to do what's right, even when it seems small or insignificant. She continued, sharing details of her life, the intervention at the stadium, the struggles against prejudice, and how these experiences shaped her family and her approach to life. Each of us has the power to impact the world around us. Sometimes, all it takes is a moment of courage, a decision to stand up for someone, or to speak out when it would be easier to remain silent. At the end of her presentation, Emily invited questions, responding with the sincerity and passion that were her trademarks. A young man in the audience raised his hand, his expression serious. How do you keep hope alive, even when things are tough? He asked. Emily paused, thoughtful, before answering. Hope is like a plant that needs to be watered, she explained. You nurture it with positive actions, with community, with love. And remember, even on the darkest days, that change is possible. What we do matters and can echo for generations. After the event, many came to thank her, sharing their own stories of struggle and resilience. Emily listened to each one, reinforced in her belief that her journey, while unique, was interconnected with many others. As she left the conference hand in hand with Michael, Emily felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She knew that her family story was just one chapter in a much larger book of social change. And as the sun set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, she was ready for whatever came next, armed with the certainty that even a single act of courage could transform the world, one life at a time.
So, if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button below and join our community. Thank you for your support and see you in the next videos.